Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to AI Voice Interview Program. Today we will continue our discussion from last week, which we did talk about the implication of the artificial intelligence, and we will continue on the significance of the artificial intelligence in promoting the diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we call in short DEI, in the digital revolution. And we will continue with our guest speaker, Dr. Riccardo Corrado, who is an associate professor at the School of Digital Technologies at the American University of Phnom Penh, and he is also a senior research fellow at the Asian Vision Institute. So, above all of that, from your point of view, how can AI be used responsibly to promote the diversity, equity, and inclusion in the digital revolution today?
Well, so this is what I call always as the DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's an interesting topic. It's really a topic of discussion that should include different experts from different background with different views. In general, it can be fostered. So diversity, equity, inclusion can be fostered with number one, trying go back to the fuel. What is the fuel that actually power AI? Data. If the data are not correct, if the data are biased, if the data are not inclusive, your model will be trained with the same bias of the data. For example, give an example. If you use data only from people that come from United States, let's say, right, or from the West, and you train a model with this data, this model will think like the West. So following what is approach of the West mentality, let's say West in more general way, maybe predicting behavior, predicting what should happen and so on. But that is a different way of thinking, of acting, of living compared to maybe Asian. So if you train model with the data that are confined to a specific reality, you are introducing a bias quite evident also in the model itself. That can be applied on races, on gender, on age, on income. So it's always the same. If you don't have a pool of data that represent entirely, inclusively, and all the diversity that you have in the society, it would be foolish to think your model will be diverse, will include the diversity, will be equal, and will include everyone, simply because you provided the data that was what you wanted. So so focusing really on the data aspect, on the data that you use for training your models. This can be at the government level, it can be at the private level. That is where you needed to pay attention. And then, of course, you need to work constantly on the policies. So an example is the European Union. They introduced this AI Act. This AI Act is about, okay, if you use the very lower risk application, then don't worry, just use it. It's okay. You respect the GDPR, the data governance, and that's fine. You are comply with the data. You are using the data for AI applications that are deemed as low risk, no problem. If you are under high risk instead, then we need to check what you are doing. You need to be more transparent. You need to make more logs. You need to keep track of the data you are using, what you are using, how long you are storing, for what purpose you are using. So you need to be more open and transparent to what you are doing with this data, what data you are using. And there needs to be external independent bodies that can check up on you, making sure you are not crossing the line. Now, crossing the line, this line could change over time, of course, with the new policies and so on, but at least you need to constantly try to have a line to set some limitation. So how can be DEI? It can be just starting from the data, making sure that the data you use for AI, for fueling AI algorithm, is inclusive, is diverse, it's unbiased, include everyone, all the society, the race, the culture, the gender, as much as possible. And then you set standards of transparency, standards of what you can do and what you cannot do, or what maybe is in the middle, but if it's in the middle, be ready to be checked. So we monitor and we make sure that everyone knows what you are doing, for what purpose you are doing, etc. So regulating it. And that is something that it will constantly evolve and always need to stay behind the advancement of technology.
So, this is the last question for you, and we would like to know what are your prospects toward the future of the use of AI in every industry and everyday life, and particularly the regulation on AI governance.
Well, see, this is also a good question. The point here is I would look at trends, the trends of application that is going on now. Usually, AI in business it's mainly used for automatizing processes and for making decisions. Automatizing processes to be more efficient and to get faster insights. Using your data to make informed decision, which can be also then automated. So the concept is being more efficient and effective. In general, I say efficient, but also effective in the way that the organization operates. As organization, also government. That is a trend. And companies, their job is to make sure that they can constantly do what they do in a better way. Always this kind of a paradigm, right? Spend less, make more. That's the concept. And that's how it should be, because that is their job. This is how they make wealth. This is how they produce products and services, create job market, etc. That is what they have to focus on. The focus of the policymakers instead is making sure that this organization have a body, have some guidelines that can adhere. Because otherwise, if you don't have guidelines, if you don't have law and regulation that are clear, for an organization, it's hard. Sometimes you may have even an organization that wanted to innovate, but because there is no regulation in place, they don't know. And they don't want to invest because you don't want to invest on something that maybe it will be banned, it will not be in compliance with the law in 1 year. So what is important for the policymakers is to come up with regulation fast. So you create a regulatory body that allows companies to say, okay, good, yeah, I know, okay, now this works, this you can do, this you cannot do, these are the guidelines, now I know how to invest, now I know how to move. Another aspect is eventually there will be the need to create a regulation that are more international. Because in a world that is more globalized, where you wanted to use the data to exchange of data, sharing data, maybe even at the ASEAN level, for example, you want to use all the data of ASEAN citizens to provide better insights that can be used for policies or even for private sector, let's say, you need to have regulation that are aligned between the member states. European Union, for example, they introduced the AI Act or the GDPR, and that was at the European level. And then other countries started to decide to comply or not. But if you don't comply, then you cannot operate with, for example, the European Union. Now, if each country work with different regulation, then it will be a little bit hard to make sure that you can be, let's say, work together. There are also studies. These are studies of AI. For example, I know also one of my students now, my former students is working on that, is what is called federated learning. So using AI data, let's say like this, using data without sharing, just to learn from them and share the insights. So, also here, technology is always trying to find a way to overcome regulation. At this moment, if we want to see where we are going, just to have an idea, the direction, I would say, let's start to look the AI Act of the one that it will come implementation in the next month. That is a very good point, pointing the direction. I mean, kind of good example, pointing the direction of where we are going. From there, I think it will start to be more regulation on the data. So everyone will use. You can see Cambodia with the data governance. Then it will be more regulation of the AI application. And then it will go more into regulation for diversity, inclusion, equity, and then maybe to be even more kind of aligned between countries. That could be the trend. But again, it's more speculation because we don't know yet.
So thank you, Dr. Riccardo, for your insight. Our discussion has now come to an end, and once again, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to Dr. Riccardo Corrado for your valuable time and your kind contribution to our discussion here today.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, and yes, have a good day and stay safe.